I came home every Friday afternoon, riding the 6 miles on the back of a big mule. I spent Saturday and Sunday washing and ironing and cooking for the children and went back to my country school on Sunday afternoon. Ida B. Wells. I'm Stephen Middleton, coming to you from the Possibility Action Network. Our core values include I am, I can, and I will. I am Possibility Man. Today, we are bringing you another February focus. We see possibility. I want to share today on Ida B. Wells-Barnett. But first, a reminder. If you haven't traveled over to YouTube, I encourage you to do so today. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my YouTube channel, and share my YouTube channel. Let's see what we can create together on the World Wide Web today. Now back to our share, Ida Bell Wells Barnett. Who was this woman? Well, she was born in Holly Springs, Mississippi in 1862. Her parents had lived there, and her parents had been enslaved in that state. Her father had gained the training of a carpenter, and her mother had gained the training of a cook. As they moved closer to emancipation, both of them had skills that were marketable in society. Tragedy struck the Wells family in 1878 when a yellow fever epidemic came through. Young Ida lost her mama and her daddy, and she also lost one of her young siblings. And here she was, at 16 years of age, with other children, six other siblings, looking to her to take care of them. Fortunately for Ida, she had had some schooling at Russ College. And she was a smart kid. She was able to read and write and actually was in many ways a teacher by the age of 16. Here is what she said. I suddenly found myself head of a family. So this is what she did. She went to the local schools after the Civil War, and she presented herself as an 18-year-old with the credentials of a teacher. She was only 16, but she advanced her years in order to land the job of a teacher. She had to take care of her siblings. And this is what the quote said that I read in the beginning. I came home every Friday afternoon, riding the 6 miles on the back of a big mule. I spent Saturday and Sunday washing and ironing and cooking for the children, and went back to my country school on Sunday afternoon. Ida B. Wells saw possibility. Can you imagine? What would you have done at the age of 16 with 6 of your young siblings to care for? Later, by the time she was actually 20 years old, she had moved to Memphis with some of her siblings to live with an aunt of hers. And she continued her education on a part-time basis. She took classes at Fisk University and then in Nashville, and then came back home to Memphis. She rode the train back and forth. By 1884, when she was 22 years of age, she had another life-defining experience. Now remember, She had already lost her parents at age 16. She had to care for 6 of her siblings. She had to advance her age to say that she was 18 so that she could become a teacher. And she had to ride a mule 6 miles in order to go to school to teach and to be at home to take care of her family. She did it because, I want to emphasize, she saw possibility. That experience could have broken her, but she kept her sights on what was possible for her. And then in 1884, as I've said, at the age of 22, Ida B. Wells had another life-defining experience. As she was riding the train from Memphis, Tennessee to Nashville, Tennessee, she had an experience on a railroad car. Now, this is after the Civil War. This is the 1880s. This is following Reconstruction. She was riding the train on a non-segregated basis along with others who could buy first-class tickets. But something had emerged in American culture and then appeared in American law. And that was the legal separation of the races. Blacks would sit somewhere else and whites would sit somewhere else. And this was the policy of the railroad company. So Ida, as she had been doing for years, bought a first-class ticket and took a first-class seat. And then the conductor on the railroad, as he came through collecting tickets, told her that she had to leave her car. Wells, of course, refused. After all, she had purchased a first-class ticket. After all, she had been doing this for a couple of years now. And when she refused to move, he forced her off the train. What would you have done? Would you have folded under this pressure? Well, Ida B. Wells saw possibility. She had this knowing. She had a knowing. She had a knowing that as a person, she was automatically free. No matter what law said, no matter what state policy said, she was automatically, naturally free. Wells knew, just knowing, that she was entitled to certain human rights by the fact that she was a human being, by the fact that she was a person. Wells understood that there are natural rights that flow from the Creator, from the universe, from nature that she was entitled to. So she knew, she had this knowing that she was entitled to ride that train. The 18th century colonial leader in Massachusetts had the same knowing. James Otis had that knowing when the American colonies, or the English colonies in America, were resisting England because they did not want to conform to the taxing policies of Parliament. James Otis had a knowing, and he began to write about it. Now, Wells is having the same knowing. James Otis had it in the 1760s. He began to write about it. He said, there is a law of God and nature. There is a higher law, a law that supersedes the law of a government, that supersedes the civil law. And James Otis in the 1760s understood that there was no distinction based on the color of a person's skin. He had this knowing, and he wrote about it in the 1760s. He said that the colonists, black and white, born here, are freeborn British subjects and entitled to all the essential civil rights. He had that knowing. Thomas Jefferson and the committee that he served on, charged with writing America's articles declaring its separation from Britain, had the same knowing. And when they wrote the Declaration of Independence then, they included the terms, all men. I want to pause here. He did not literally mean sex. He was speaking to something higher. All humans, all human beings, men read generically, are created equal because they too had this knowing. Wells then, when she was forced from the train, had that knowing. So what would you do? What would you have done? Would you have folded under this pressure, or would you see another possibility? Ida B. Wells saw another possibility. So therefore, she understood that the Civil War had been fought, that the Congress had passed the 13th Amendment, which had abolished slavery. She understood that the Congress had passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which had defined citizenship by birth. She knew that she was a citizen of the United States, and she knew she was a citizen of the state of Tennessee, and she had the knowing that she was entitled to rights under natural law. Wells had that knowing. She knew that the Congress had passed the 14th Amendment, which had written into the Constitution citizenship by birth. And she knew that the 14th Amendment gave the government the power to protect individuals in their equal protection of the laws. And she knew that the government offered due process for citizens to assert their rights if their rights had been deprived. Ida B. Wells saw that possibility. So when the railroad conductor pushed her off the train, she fought back physically, but when they succeeded in pushing her off the train, she fought back in the courts, asserting her rights, asserting her civil rights, because she had that knowing. She saw another possibility. And actually, she won her case in the lower Tennessee courts, and then won a $500 award, cash award. The railroad company appealed, and the state Supreme Court of Tennessee overturned that victory. But Ida B. Wells continued to see possibility. She later got married to a lawyer, Ferdinand Barnett. So now, Ida B. Wells Barnett, in the passage of time, she had 4 children. She had already helped raise her siblings. Now she's raising children of her own. What would you have done? Would you have said, okay, now I got 4 kids now, I got a husband now, or would you see another possibility? Ida B. Wells Barnett saw possibility. She became a writer. And ultimately, she became one of the co-founders of 2 newspapers, the Memphis Free Speech, and later the Headlight and Free Speech. And she began to write. She began to write about American society because she saw possibility. Of course, she was aware of the crazy things that people do to each other, and she wrote about those too, about the violence against certain Americans. She understood that people sometimes do bad things to each other. She met with the President of the United States in the late 1890s, President McKinley, and told him that he had to argue for reform because of the violence going on against some American citizens. Ida B. Wells saw possibility. What about you? And then she became an organizer. She helped organize the National Association of Colored Women because she could see another possibility for them. She helped organize the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, because she saw another possibility. And she helped to organize the Alpha Suffrage Club in Chicago because she saw a possibility for women to be able to vote. And she was able to go to the street and protest because she saw another possibility. She could see another possibility. Of course, Ida B. Wells died in 1931, but her legacy lives on. Here is what you'll find. In 2020, the Pulitzer Prize Committee gave Ida B. Wells Barnett a commendation. Of course, posthumously, she's now deceased. And this is what the committee said: a special citation to honor Ida B. Wells for her outstanding and courageous reporting on the horrific and vicious violence against African Americans. The board said that the prize would carry a $50,000 cash award, which would be given to individuals who fight for justice. Ida B. Wells saw possibility. How about you? This is why the Possibility Action Network exists. Looking for possibility, seeing possibility. What about you? I'm Stephen Middleton, coming to you from the Possibility Action Network. Our core values include I am, I can, and I will. I am Possibility Man, bringing you another February focus. We see possibility. Until next time, good day.